Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, Potteroonies. I'm not sure that's a word, but I'll go with it for today. Welcome back after our week off this week as The Tragedy of Macbeth, a new Shakespeare movie, is coming out in cinemas. And of course, that is done by the Coen brothers. So we'll pick our favourite Coen brothers films. And as always, I am joined by the Schmader himself, Mr. Boaz Dix. I love that word.
Yeah, the Schmader. The Schmader. What's the matter, you Schmader? It's really good.
How are you?
I love
Good?
The Italians. Yeah, I love the Coens. Yeah, I'm great.
Cool. Right, my pick then. Well, before we start, if you've seen our Instagram posts and you're like, why haven't you picked Inside Llewyn Davis? Why haven't you picked Fargo? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Well, we've covered them already.
Exactly. Keep up, you losers. Yeah.
We covered Inside Llewyn Davis in our last one with Oscar Isaac films and Fargo with our Francis McDormand films. So if you love those films from the Coens, check those podcasts out. They are rather good. Right, my pick then is No Country for Old Men.
Yep.
I really, really love this film. I think it's really quite unique. It does some very unusual things that I haven't never really seen before in movies.
Is that narratively or visually?
Narrative. Bit of both. Yeah. I'm just like, really? Wow, they've done that. I mean, it's based on Cormac McCarthy's book of the same name, so I don't know whether it's directly from the book or not, but I've not read the book. But seeing this film, I was just like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, I love The Big Lebowski. I was tempted to go with that one. That's a really good film. Raising Arizona is a great one as well, but there's just something about this film, No Country for Old Men, that's quite unique. So what happens in No Country for Old Men? Well, a
psychopath kills many, many people for no explicable reason.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it should be called The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we basically follow two characters. Anton Chigurh, played by Javier Bardem, who is basically a serial killer, a psychopath serial killer. We don't really know how he finds out about this money.
I wouldn't say that it's just hinted at, but the fact that they talk about him so much and those guys give him a tracer and just his general attitude, it's like one of the parties involved in the trade wants to find the money, and they've hired Anton, and he's dead set on finding the money. But if they send anybody else, he'll fucking kill them. Like, as far as he's concerned, like, I'm doing this, He's just a force of nature. It doesn't matter. If you tell him to do something, he's gonna... Yeah.
And there's another character played by Josh Brolin, Llewellyn Moss, who is just out on an ordinary hunting trip in Texas, and he comes across this drug deal between Mexicans gone wrong, and there's lots of trucks with a load of dead people around. And he finds the last man dead by a tree and finds that there's like $2 million in cash. So he's basically takes the money and soon finds out that he's being chased by Anton Chigurh's character. And it's basically a chase film from then on. And then you've got Tommy Lee Jones's character, Ed Tom, a just about to retire police sheriff, who's kind of a few steps behind them, and just kind of ends with Ed Tom, really, because Llewellyn Moss basically just gets killed by the Mexicans. Anton Chigurh gets hit in a car accident, and he just walks off, and then it's kind of ends really very, very quietly.
Yeah.
So it's very much a big anti-climax, which I quite enjoyed. Actually, I found that quite interesting how they do that. We'll get on to that later. But yeah, what did you make of this one then, Boaz?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it several times. I think it's a really good film, and it's very memorable. Yeah, I mean, narratively, it's a weird one because you can leave this film feeling like, like what, like, but it makes you think about it more because you're like, what on earth? You feel like it feels as if there are deep messages in this movie, like throughout the movie, right to the end. It's one of those things where I think you'll think about it, you'll try and find essays on it, you'll try and make up your own theories as to what it's really about. It does feel like, even though it's a fairly grounded tale of a guy finding money and him being chased by a kind of evil gangster, that there does seem to be some sort of meta narrative above this that's to do with life and meaning.
Getting old sucks, basically.
Yeah. Getting old sucks. Yeah, and the world is cruel and strange.
So directing, then, I think you get the tone of this film very early on, where Javier Bardem's character Anton Chigurh has been arrested, and the cop is sitting at the desk, and he's talking to someone on the phone. He's like, "Oh yeah, everything's under control." Meanwhile, in the corner of the shot, Anton is just sitting behind him, and he steps under his arms because he's handcuffed, so his hands are now in front of him, and he just strangles the cop. And the opening scene just establishes that there's nowhere to hide in this film. This is almost like a Coen slasher film, if you will. Yeah. In the next scene, the killer just asks the guy to hold still, really nicely, just before he kills him with the cattle air gun thingy.
Yeah.
Really dark tone to it. Did you notice what this film doesn't have, where most films do have?
Soundtrack?
Yeah, music.
Yeah.
This film has no music at all.
Yeah.
Well, there is a tiny little bit in the coin toss scene, but it's you can't really notice it at all unless you're really looking for it.
I think also most...
Yeah.
I know, not just most. I would say all music, all tunes in this film are they're diegetic. They're whatever the hell the character is actually playing on the radio, or what he's listening to, or what people are playing. Yeah, there's a lot of silence in this film. There's a lot of just earthy noises of just, what's actually going on. Which
I think for me reflects this very cold reality of this world. Music is usually used to heighten your emotions about what's going on screen.
And to prep you for what's coming. You're like, okay, this is an action scene. Let's pump out the action music. Like this, it doesn't matter what's going on. They could be having... a very friendly conversation. It could be something more serious. It could be just before a fight. You've got no idea because, it's all just the same. You're like, things could kick off and you're not sure when it's going to kick off. But...
Yeah, this film basically looks for the complete opposite of that, The hero's dead. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah, basically it kind of does a lot of things that, you're kind of instructed not to do. Do you know what I mean? And it just does them, and it gets away with it because you're like, it doesn't feel like it's kind of deliberately trying to tell you something or show you something. It's like, do you know what I mean? This isn't really how the world works. It's not like a film, and it also makes it stand out because it's so different in many respects. So as you said, there's no music; it's all earthy sound. So when Llewellyn Moss gets first tracked by the cartel, I wasn't exactly sure what the hell was happening. I was like, I seen this car. I'm like, is he in danger? And then they start shooting at him. You're like, holy shit, okay, I guess he's in danger, Yeah, and then he dies without any funfare. You don't even see his death, His wife probably dies. You don't see her death. The guy gets away, and Tommy Lee Jones is retired. And none of it seems to really have an end.
It's such an anti-Hollywood film,
Yeah.
I love this very simple shot on Woody Harrelson's character, Carson Wells, where he's just walking up the stairs in the Eagle Hotel, and Anton just randomly turns round the corner and follows him up the stairs, and then he just randomly stops. And, the following conversation is so tense because Carson has just described to Moss that Anton will kill you just for inconveniencing him. So you know for sure he's going to die in that conversation. But when the phone rings, it did make me jump out of my skin because you're just waiting for the gunshot to happen.
Yeah.
And I love that little like dark, funny Coen quirk when when after he shot him, he's talking to Moss on the phone, and Carson's blood is just approaching his boots, and he just casually puts them up on the bed so it doesn't get them all bloody. It's just really darkly funny.
Yeah, I thought that was smooth. Oh man, I thought it was really tense where like the sheriff, played by Tommy Lee Jones, he's gone to the crime scene where Llewellyn Moss has been killed, and you see Anton is hiding somewhere, and he's like wondering if he should actually enter the door and like, die. And he kind of goes in and he's with his gun and stuff and just walks around and then sits down and then just leaves. And you're like, where was Anton hiding? Like, it just felt like he could have got his head blown off at any moment,
I mean, was he in the same room?
I think he might have been in a neighbouring room because, what was it? The screws were undone and I like that as well. He sees that the screws are undone on the
air vent.
Yeah, the air vent. So, he's got the money because that's where Llewellyn hid it last time. He hid it in the air vent. Yeah.
I think my favourite sequence is that little skirmish Moss and Sugar have at the hotel.
Yeah, no, 100%. I would say that's definitely my favourite sequence. Yeah.
I love the use of sound and light in that bit to create this great tension when Anton is chasing Moss. Moss is in the hotel at night and works out that the case of money has like a tracking device in it, and he hears a noise in the corridor. So he gets the shotgun out ready and turns the light off, and you have this classic shot of seeing the shadow of the guy's feet at the bottom of the door, and you think, oh, Moss has the upper hand, but then the light goes out in the corridor, and you're like, nope, he doesn't have the upper hand anymore. And then you're like, oh, the door lock is going to like pop out at any moment. It's just great stuff there, great visual storytelling. And then in that whole sequence, you don't really see Anton at all. The whole perspective is with Moss, and when he's in the truck, there are like bullets flying in, breaking the glass everywhere. And you have no idea where it's coming from, which makes it, a lot more exciting than if you knew where they both were,
Yeah, he's like the boogeyman. I also like where he gets into that guy's car, stops him down, he gets in the car. Before even the guy knows what the hell's going on, he's like, you need to get me out of here. Bang! He just gets shot straight in the throat. He's like choking on his own blood. Tries to drive the car. I like that. The windows are being shut, and he's trying to look around, like, through the wind mirror. Like, where the fuck is this coming from? Crashes the car. And I love how he gets the drop on. I like that because it's a callback where Sugar is looking for him and sees his blood. Because do you remember when... Yeah. You remember when, like, Llewellyn, I think, shot a deer or something, and he missed it, and he goes and he sees a trail of blood from like a dog, which leads into the shootout. And just how it's like, he kind of found it by hunting, and it mirrors it, that he's been wounded, and Sugar is looking at the trail of his blood, and it goes off into the distance. And he's like, oh shit. And Llewellyn has like the drop on him, shoots him in the leg, and then he's trying to look at his trail of blood. I thought that was really good. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, such a good sequence.
Yeah.
So that's both our favourite scenes, I guess. So directing score for you, Boaz, what are you going for?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's phenomenally directed, which is obvious. Of course, it's going to be. Yeah, maybe like a 9.2 or something.
I find this film pretty awesomely directed, to be honest. Again, like there's so many shots where like Anton Chigurh is just like looming in the background, and it does feel like a Coen slasher film a little bit.
I think another really good shot is where Anton, like to treat his wounded leg, he blows up a car so he can just walk through the pharmacy. That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Yeah, I was going to say, like in the screenplay, I didn't write it down, but there's so many things you wouldn't expect to see in a film like this, where they cut out so many things that you would expect to see. Like when he is like treating his leg, that goes on for seems like a long time.
Like usually that wouldn't be in a film. If you're like the guy gets medical supplies to treat his wound, and then the wound is treated, maybe sewing himself back up, But
You'd
no,
have,
he
like,
goes
30
through
seconds.
the entire exactly. He goes through the entire process of actually showing you how to heal an open wound done by a shotgun. It's like okay, that's a bit weird. And you're right. You've got important scenes like you think you're going to get Moss and Sugar having a final showdown, but he just gets killed off screen by a couple of. It's like that's a very vital scene. It's like I've been following this guy. I want to see how he ends.
Yeah.
And that's just gone. And even like his wife as well. That altercation with his wife. You think maybe you're going to see that, but no. What you do see at the end, the very last scene, is him getting ran into by a car, which has got fuck all to do with the story.
Yeah. I think it's just almost like the Coens are like, right, what would a traditional Hollywood film do in these situations when either not going to show it or do something else? Completely the opposite.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I'll go like 9.3, I think.
Yeah.
It's just beautifully shot as well.
Definitely.
Like the lighting is great because a lot of stuff is at night. Roger Deakins shot it. Great, like golden hour, blue hour stuff with the Mexican chase near the beginning. That's so good, that stuff. So yeah, right. Screenplay then. There's a lot to say about the screenplay. Again, I like the opening voiceover from Tommy Lee Jones's character, Ed Tom Bell, where he says at the end of his monologue at the start, the voiceover, a man would have to put his soul at hazard. He'd have to say, okay, I'll be part of this world. And he's basically, you have to watch your back, like wherever you go in this film. And in this world, quite literally. I think that's very much a theme in this film, is that you could literally die at any point. You really have to be really careful all the time.
Yeah.
Even if in these traditionally safe places in movies and in the world, you're probably going to, you still got to watch your back. I love the coin toss scene where Anton and the store clerk are talking, and the store clerk gets like confused quite quickly about Anton's questioning, and he randomly asks the clerk to call a coin toss, and again the clerk is confused and asks, like, what is he calling it for? And Anton just says, call it. So he does. He calls heads and wins, and the clerk is about to put the coin in his pocket, and Anton says, oh, don't put it in your pocket, it's your lucky quarter. The clerk says, where do you want me to put it? Anywhere not in your pocket, or it'll get mixed up with all the others and just be a coin. Pause. Which it is.
Yeah.
And from that one scene, you get the idea of what Anton Chigurh's philosophy on life is. You can live or die at any time. Life is a game of chance in this world at any time and at any moment. And if you get attached to anything, because there's no point, you could be dead tomorrow.
Yeah, I like to think of like Anton as sort of a stand-in for like the Grim Reaper. Just completely random. He can spare you at a dime. Like, where he shoots the gangster or whatever who gave like, a tracer to the mobsters and what have you. He just enters into his office and just blows them away just immediately.
Yeah.
And the guy, he's like, who are you? He's like, I'm an accountant. He's like, are you going to kill me? He's like, it depends. Did you see me? But it's like, he'll just spare you. He can do like acts of mercy, just like that.
Yeah.
Or he can just blow your face off. And yeah, he does seem a bit random.
And then it's interesting, before Carla Jean's death, Moss's wife, Anton gives her like a chance to live by doing the coin toss again. And he asks her to call it, but she refuses and says the coin doesn't have no say, it's just you. And for Carla, this has nothing to do with chance. This is all in Anton's hands. Then Anton says, well, I got here the same way the coin did. And Anton's like, well, fate has brought me here the same way the coin has. You are the wife of a man who decided to run away with $2 million worth of drug money. The fact that Anton just walks out alone, means that she's definitely dead as well.
Yeah. Especially that he checks his shoes.
Quite poignant.
I tend to think that he's checking if he had any blood on them. He seems a bit particular about that.
The man don't like blood on his boots. Obviously.
It's his own weakness. His only kryptonite. I think it's really interesting as well that you've got like bit characters that have, I don't know, just like scenes. They just have scenes. And I just think that's kind of interesting. It makes the world feel quite real. So, whether it's the people that Tommy Lee Jones talks to, like his deputy, or you remember he has like coffee with some guy, and they're
With lots of cats.
yeah, with lots of cats, yeah, and they talk about this country and retiring, whether he should retire, and he tells them some stories, and then that other guy that he talks to at that restaurant, who's talking about like how none of this makes sense. He's like, the world's gone crazy. He goes, I knew everything was going wrong when people started having green hair and bones in their noses. That's where it all started to go wrong. It's just people, saying shit like that. Or the border guard. Do you remember that? Who's like, I'll ask you questions if you answer correctly. Goes,
I got an overcoat.
Yeah, you being smart with me, boy? Don't be smart with me, boy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, the two lots of kids. One that Moss finds who give him their coat, and then Anton, where he meets some kids that they're just they just feel quite real. Yeah.
I said so much happens off screen, and I think I counted there are about 5 deaths off screen. The guy in the office, Moss's wife, the hotel clerk in the Ego Hotel, the chicken man. And as we've said, like the one that's completely unexpected is Moss himself. He doesn't even get killed by Anton. He gets killed by a hit and run from the Mexicans who had the money in the first place. And I've never seen that before, that the lead protagonist of your movie gets killed off screen. The balls on the Coens to do that is amazing.
It's because of his bloody mother-in-law as well.
Yeah.
This is why you should be careful with your mother-in-laws. It's the reason why he hates her. Like, that Mexican guy just goes to pick up her bags and is like, oh, where are you going, mate? I ask. We're going to El Paso. I meet my son-in-law. I never been to El Paso. Well, what hotel are you staying at? It took me a second rewatch. I'd watched it before. And like, oh shit, that's how they knew exactly where he was? That silly fucking woman.
Yeah, I mean, the balls on the Coens to do that is amazing, because I think the real protagonist is Ed Tom, the sheriff. Because he's been a few steps behind Anton and Moss throughout the film, but you get the sense he's getting closer and closer. Then when Moss dies, he's basically front and center from that point. That when he goes into the crime scene again, because he's worked out that Sugar does go back to the crime scenes, but it kind of comes to nothing. It's really subtly done, but Ed Tom is only front and center for like 10 minutes, and then the film ends. Yeah. So it's just, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
And it ends in a really peculiar way.
Yeah.
It ends with Ed Tom, him and his wife, and he had like a weird dream. And he tells her it, and it was like, I don't understand what that dream means. Like, I've been trying to, like, over multiple rewatches, trying to work it out, like what he's trying to say. I think it's about aging. It is.
Yeah.
I think this is just a film about life gets harder, or it looks more absurd the older you get, and the fear of death intensifies. Because even when throughout this film, like Ed Tom has this kind of point of view that the world has only just now gone crazy, and he's like, it never used to be like this. And you've got characters like Sugar, just mindless violence, and you got gangsters and drugs. But then I like towards the end where he meets a guy that used to be a deputy with his dad. Comes to his house. And he tells him a story that he knew a man who, or whatever, like his uncle or whatever, where these guys just came to his house, they shot him and just watched him bleed to death. And he was like, when was this? He was like 1906?
02 or something.
Yeah. So it's just like, dude, the world is always hard. The world is always cruel. It's just, when you get older, you can't keep up with it. It looks so bad now because you do not have the energy to do this. You don't have the courage to do this. And I like where he just says, this country's hard on people, If you're old, it's just, you're not going to keep up. So
yeah, I think you're right.
But I think he has a very kind of Old West view of, a sort of fictionalized view of how the world used to be and how the West was, because this is like a neo-Western. But he's like, back in the day, it was like the Westerns, good from
simpler.
Good and bad from bad. And that's the time of my dad. Yeah, it was probably never like that. It's just that they were in much the same situation. There was the fear and but I just think it's more of a film about like just the idealized way that the world should be and just how the world is.
Certainly that last scene invokes the title of the film, No Country for Old Men, for sure.
Yeah. Because his dream was something like his father. He sees his father up yonder.
Yeah, he's describing like a comforting dream about his dad, and he says at the end, and he was fixing to make a fire somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold, and I knew that when I got there, he'd be there. Then I woke up. End film. I think for me, he's basically imagining a simpler time when he was younger. Basically just saying getting old sucks, and he just doesn't, as you said, he doesn't really identify and understand this world anymore and what's happening fully. I guess the reasoning behind these violent acts. I just love the confidence in the Coens to end a film like this so quietly in just a really simple conversation. Yeah, again, this very much anti-Hollywood thing,
The third act is not guns blazing. Like that's the second act.
No.
The second act is where everything goes down, and then it's just, it just kind of mellows down,
Yes, this film is very serious, but there are some, like, Coen funny moments, some funny lines. Not laugh out loud, but just interesting stuff. Someone says, "How would you describe him?" I guess I'd say he doesn't have a sense of humor, from Carson. "You have a lot of people come here without any clothes on." Like, "No, sir, it's unusual." I think my favourite line is from Ed Tom, where they've just missed Sugar in Moss's caravan, and his partner's like, "Oh, we should circulate. We've just missed him." And he's like, then Ed Tom says, "But what do we circulate? Looking for a man who has just recently drunk milk."
Yeah, that was funny. Or where he doesn't draw his gun. He's like, "Aren't you going to draw yours?" He's like, "I'm hiding behind you." My favourite line, there are quite a few, but my favourite line, I think, is where... Because what fucks him up, actually, is trying to do a good deed. If he didn't do that good deed, he would have been safe. Like, you know, the bad deed was him taking the money, but he would have been fine. That gangster was dying, and he wanted water, and he's like, "I ain't got no agua for you," and he just leaves him.
Yeah.
And then at night, he's like, "God damn it," and he just is filling up a jug of water to take to him, and it's only then that he gets, that they know who he is, and they know where he lives.
Yeah.
And then it kicks the rest of the film. He could have just, fuck that guy, yeah? So my favourite line is where his wife, who has absolutely no idea what's going on, is like, "What are you doing, Llewellyn?" Something stupid. He goes, "If I don't come back, tell my mother I love her." It's like, "Your mother's dead, Llewellyn." It's like, "Okay, I'll tell her myself." And he goes, yeah, I like that. I think that
was good.
That's really good.
Again, I just like the fact that the Coens don't really have a character for the Mexicans. Maybe that one guy who talks to his mother-in-law at the end, near the end. Yeah, but the Mexicans are very, very much in the background in this film. Even in that chase, you just see them in silhouette. That's it. Very much a dark reckoning for
they don't really talk
for Moss, where he doesn't really consider. I don't think the present danger is always Sugar. We and Moss kind of forget about the Mexicans completely because they're just not there, but they're always kind of there in the background. Yeah. So score, Bowers, for screenplay.
So I think the thing is, because it's not dialogue heavy. There are some really clever lines, but it is mainly a visual sport. I want to edge out with the directing here because, if you give it to a lesser director, they wouldn't shoot it as well. Do you know what I mean? So I'll probably give it like an 8.8.
Yeah, as you said, there is a lot of visual storytelling, but I think you do have to write that in the script, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think I might go the same as directing, to be honest. 9.3. I think it's really exceptional of this philosophy of anti-Hollywood film,
Yeah, definitely.
So really, it's just so refreshing and so nice to see, and just so surprising. It just keeps you on edge. You can't predict anything in this film. Right, acting then. For me, it's all about Anton Chigurh.
Yeah. What is this guy, the ultimate badass? How dangerous would you say Chigurh is compared to what? The bubonic plague? Yeah, no, this guy is, he's the devil.
When Anton Chigurh pretends to be a cop with no uniform, and he's with these two other detectives, and they look around the crime scene of the drug deal gone wrong with all the trucks at night, and he asks for the tracking device. and then just randomly shoots both of them casually as you like. And Javier Bardem's expression doesn't change one bit. There's just nothing on his face.
I like that, yeah.
Nothing after completely murdering two cops. It's just so cold.
I love that as well because
it's just like he's just ordering 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah, he just does. It's just. I like how he also shoots Carson, where he doesn't even look at him. He's just like bang, and he's gone. He doesn't even flinch. He doesn't care. Just picks up the phone because it's ringing. And even how he walks is very strange. It's like incredibly. He's like a fucking machine. I think like Anton, the guy that played, Javier Bardem, could do an amazing Terminator just based on his performance. Like, he is more machine than man. He's just like an unfeeling, killing cyborg. And he portrays it so well, so intimidating, but not like cheesy or just over the top. It's very muted. You
can't fuck with this guy at all with humor or anything.
Yeah.
And that hair, my God, that's scary. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Apparently that's all Javier Bardem's idea, to have this horrible, like, bowl haircut. Just, like, intimidating. Well, not intimidating, just like, what the fuck is that on your head?
Yeah, it looks ridiculous. The hair looks ridiculous. But if his acting wasn't as intense, and if his character wasn't as evil, you'd think, dude, that is a stupid-ass haircut. Even with a stupid-ass haircut, he's so intimidating. You're like, you'd never mention that to him, It becomes an intimidating haircut just because of him.
Yeah.
Like, everything about him just becomes intimidating just because it emanates from him. So, I think he could have had fucking Jerry curls. I reckon he could have had an afro. And I would have still been scared of Javier Bardem,
Yeah, I think he just wants your final sight of him to see something ridiculous and horrible just before you die. With that hair,
Yeah.
Again, like, Javier Bardem is amazing when he blows up a car to cause a distraction to enter the pharmacy. The car blows up behind him as over his shoulder as he's walking through the pharmacy. And again, no expression changes. The car blows up. I'm like, how do you not flinch? That is amazing. So it just puts into doubt. I'm thinking there must be some visual trickery there. Maybe. I don't know. Like green screen. I don't know.
I don't know. I would like to see how they did that, if that was done genuinely. I hope it was. It was pretty badass. So, Llewellyn Moss.
Josh Brolin,
that's the one. Thanos himself. Yeah, he was great. His wife, I think, was quite good as well. Like, even though it's like she's just kind of worried most of the time, I think her ending scene where, from where she knows he's dead to, like, her talk with Javier Bardem, that was really good.
Yeah, Kelly MacDonald.
I think my favourite scene, acting-wise, with Josh Brolin is after his fight with Anton, and he is fucked up, and just him talking with those kids to try and get their coat.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, he looks fucked up, which is good to the prop department, but he acts so fucked up, man. He just... Like, he's trying to keep his insides together, he's just struggling to breathe. You can tell, it feels like he's in pain. You can feel that pain, and I think, that's a good performance, Who's your favourite? What do you reckon? Javier Bardem?
Oh, Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Acting score?
I'll give it a 9.
Again, I think the acting is pretty solid. Javier Bardem is just creepy as fuck, and Tommy Lee Jones doesn't do too much, but again, I think for the other characters, you don't want to do too much, I don't think. They're all really good. A lot of great subtle performances. So I'll go like 8.7, I think. Let's add up the scores then for No Country for Old Men. No Country for Old Men gets 54.3, which is a very high score. I think that might be in the top 10 somewhere, 8, 7 or something like that. If you want to find out, check out Instagram and Twitter on Tuesdays. Right, what is your pick then for Coen Brother films?
My pick is Miller's Crossing.
Nice. So why did you pick Miller's Crossing?
Because it's a very good film.
Cool. Was it one of these where you hadn't seen it before? Or?
No, I've watched it before, yeah. So it's not one of these, which is most times that I haven't watched it before. It's one of those where I watched it a long time ago with my family, and I really liked it. I watched it a few times after I first watched it, to me, this was kind of like almost like a neo-noir sort of pulpy gangster film.
Yeah.
I hadn't really watched proper noirs, and I'd watched this. This is kind of like, I would say, one of my first, films in that era, in that style, that I'd ever watched, And I really liked it. I thought it was like just amazing.
I mean, are you a fan of these type of like Prohibition era type American movies? Because you picked Road to Perdition for Tom Hanks films. Are you just a fan of that type of era?
It kind of seems so. Like, yeah. So it's not that I kind of like actively search them out, but Road to Perdition, amazing film. And I just love, in that film, the era, the feeling of it, the way they talk, the kind of morally greyness of it, just the environment, just everything. The suits, I love the suits. And then this is more of the same. So yeah, I do think I do have a sort of, a calling to this genre of film and to this period, gangsters in the 1930s, It's very appealing.
I thought one of us was bound to pick like one of their more funny ones, like, I don't know, Burn After Reading or Tolerable Cruelty.
Yeah, I actually
Big Lebowski,
Yeah, actually, if I were to pick like a funny one, what's the one? Oh brother, where art thou? Brother, where art thou?
Yeah, I've not actually seen that one.
That is a really good film. I do reckon. Yeah. I thought that was hilarious first time I watched that. So I would have picked that if I was looking for funny films. But yeah, I didn't pick a funny one. I do like this film though. I think it's a really good gangster film. There's a lot going on, and I like it how the main character is not. He is a gangster in kind of the loosest sense. Like, he's not a thug, and he really doesn't like violence. But he's this like fast talking, overly smart guy who just sort of works everything out.
He constantly gets beaten up, it seems.
He constantly gets beaten up. But I think it's brilliant because the brawn is not his strong suit, No. He'll get demolished in every fight, but he is brainy. He's just the smartest guy in the room, And he manages to take down a criminal empire, using his brains. I think that's pretty good.
So what happens in Miller's Crossing?
All right, so Miller's Crossing is so it's set in the 1930s. There are these two factions. Well, basically, the film starts with one real faction. There's this guy that's in charge of the entire city called Leo, and Tom
Regan.
Tom Regan, yeah, played by Gabriel Byrne. He's his right-hand man, his basic, his advisor. And so one of the gangsters, the largest gangster in the city that is basically under Leo, wants this guy killed, this guy called Bernie, who is leaking out how his fights are fixed. Every time he tries to set up a fixed
He's
fight.
like a bookie, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like a bookie. And so every time he fixes up a fight, everybody knows about the fix, and the tips are being sold off by this guy called Bernie. So he wants Leo to let him kill him. Leo won't do that because Bernie is his girlfriend's brother. So Vera's brother, yeah. So he's set on protecting him. And Tom just thinks this is a bad idea. And he's sleeping with Vera. It's all this kind of weird, It's
very complex.
It is very complex. There are wheels within wheels. But yeah, basically a gang war starts with these two guys, between Leo and Johnny Casper. And basically Tom is trying to sort this out without telling anybody, using his very crafty ways. Yeah, so the title, like Miller's Crossing, just kind of refers to this area where a lot of people get whacked.
Bumped.
Yeah, which, features quite a lot in the plot.
I like this film. It's certainly a film you can't like casually just have a look at your phone. You really have to concentrate. Even though I wouldn't do that in any movie. What am I talking about? But you really have to concentrate because there's a lot of twists and turns.
There's quite a few characters and background characters. There's a lot going on, and as you said, there are a lot of twists and turns. So you're like, wait, hang a minute, he betrayed this guy and he did that. And who did... So you got to actually kind of understand what the fuck's going on. You kind of have a laid back attitude to this film. You're going to be so lost.
You're going to be lost, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I did see it a long time ago. When you picked this, it was kind of nice because I didn't remember anything from this film. Yeah. Nothing. I like it, but that's part of the problem I have with this film is that there's just not much memorability about this film. There's like nothing that massively stands out for me compared to other films in this type of genre. You know, we've mentioned Road to Perdition. You know, I would pick that film over this for sure. And obviously, it's just this genre is really, really strong with high quality. I'm not saying this film is bad. I'm just saying, I mean, this film is really good, but there are a lot of better ones out there for me, which unfortunately doesn't make this film terribly memorable. But, you know, great twists and turns, great characters. You know, this isn't shot by their normal cinematographer, Roger Deakins. I think this is before they got with Roger Deakins as their cinematographer. I think, you know, that visually it's fine. You know, I just think if they had someone like Roger behind the camera, this film could have been even better. Directing then, you know, I did enjoy the opening dialogue scene between the two mob bosses, like Leo, played by Albert Finney, and Johnny Casper, played by John Polito. You know, they're discussing a problem with, like, the fixing of the boxing matches. As the conversation continues, you see Johnny's muscle, the Dane, with this, like, great hat tilt revealing his eyes, looking like he's ready for a fight. Then in, like, a wider shot, he's holding, like, Johnny's hat, like, very suspiciously, like he's got a gun in the other hand. You know, and then from then on, from the rest of the conversation, the tension just notches up a bit and it gets more heated from there. And I think, you know, that opening scene just kind of is a nice starting point for what you're going to get for the rest of the film. It's a very talky film. You know, people in a room talking about this gang war, and there's a lot of scenes where tension is created in just conversation. And certainly the first one is a great example of that. Quite like the assassination attempt on Leo, where you have this nice, like, tracking shot through a room while you hear some guy gets strangled, and then the shot finishes on the dead guy, and then you get these two goons going upstairs trying to kill Leo, you know, and it's all kind of low angles, just showing their feet and Tommy guns. And I like, as you just said, that the whole scene is kind of like tied together with the Danny Boy music playing. The one thing I didn't like, though, was when Leo shoots the goon in the window and the guy is, like, shaking uncontrollably because of all the bullets going in him. And there's, like, bullets going everywhere from his gun. I just found it a little bit unintentionally funny, just a bit too much for me for that. But I'm like, bloody hell, he's really going for it on his death scene there, that actor.
Yeah, really ramped it up to 11. And he shoots that car as well, blows that to pieces. I love that. Gets the cigar out. It's like, fucking yeah.
I quite like the scene where Tommy admits to Leo that he's been seeing Werner, and Leo just turns away, and Tommy just leaves the office, and Tommy walks out surrounded by all of Leo's bodyguards in the corridor, and you just about see, like, Leo follow him out as the camera is still on Tommy. Then Tommy turns around and gives him a beating, and Leo gives Tommy a beating, and it ends with, like, Tommy grabbing onto this big ugly woman's dress while she's, like, beating him off. That was quite funny. Was funny. Yeah. So
I like what was it, where the cops are taking down that pub?
Oh yeah,
you know, one of Leo's pubs. You know, they throw a fucking pipe bomb through the window, and it's like, bang, kills loads of people. You know the drill. If you're still breathing, get on out. This one guy comes out with a white flag, and this policeman shoots him. And if I'm not mistaken, that guy looks exactly like Sam Raimi. I think that might be Sam Raimi.
He's in the cast.
Yeah.
It is Sam Raimi.
So that policeman is Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi shoots that guy and then gets shot. Like, when they laugh about it, he gets filled with bullets and then they're just shooting back and forth. I thought that was awesome.
I just love how, like, excessive the use of the police, the Coens, are in this film. That they go so easily from working from one mob boss to the other.
Oh, yeah.
That every cop in the city decides to, you know, raid their joints. And then there's a guy with a Tommy gun, isn't there? And shooting at the police, and then literally the whole police department plus a mounted machine gun on a car is like taking out this one guy.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
just it does feel at times that the Coens are like pastiching the gangster genre. I don't know, with their own quirkiness. Certainly in just this ridiculous, over the top action scene. Looks really impressive, but kind of funny at the same time.
I would say another scene I quite like, because I want to sort of steer into the more directorial aspects rather than in the writing. But where he's taken, because I just thought the tension in this scene was really good, where he's taken to Miller's Crossing because Eddie Dane does not believe that he shot Bernie. And I really like that scene. I thought it's super tense because you're like, he knows. You know he fucking knows.
Yeah.
He's really pulling on the tension. And I like how even the camera turns where he's like, and I was told that these guys didn't even see you actually kill the body. They didn't even actually see the stick. And the camera goes onto these guys. And even the big guy is covered in bruises. And, the tiny Italian guy. So to me, it's like Eddie Dane is a serious motherfucker. It's like these guys kicked the shit out of Tom, and he beat the crap out of them for information. It's just like he is a serious, and he's just really menacing. And then they're taking him through the woods, and one of them is singing some Italian opera song as they're looking for the body, which he knows is not there. The camera is on him and Eddie Dane just behind him, who's just really kind of, again, pushing it out. He's like, if we don't find a stiff, we're going to leave a fresh one, and you're like, oh, fuck. And he just collapses and vomits. And it's like, that was just such a tense scene. And then it's like, he is going to die.
Because you don't know how he's going to get out of it. He's just like, shit.
Yeah. I thought it was just such a great scene because he's such a clever character. And then it's like, no, he is going to die. He thinks he's going to die. How is he going to do this? You can even see the wheels turning. He's walking thinking, how the fuck am I going to get out of here?
When you see the body, you assume it's Bernie, but the body is all mangled and like decaying. So it just puts into question at this point in the film that is it actually Bernie or who killed him? But obviously it ends up being Mink. Ends up being Steve Buscemi character. Yeah.
Who's Eddie Dane's boyfriend. But I like that, because even Tom, I mean, after that was a real low show of weakness for the character. But, even that, he's smart enough to sort of piece it together, where he phones up Bernie and is like, I had a good dream. And he's like, it was pretty pleasant. You were dead in Miller's Crossing. He's like, I take that was Mink, It's like, so he's back to being cool and in control. But I just love that scene, because it's like, it just ramps up the tension where you're like, man, this guy's going to die. And I think it's shot fairly effectively.
Is that your favourite shot or scene?
I would say, from like a sort of, a character perspective, that's my favourite scene. I was almost certain, the first time I watched it, that he's a dead man. And, even rewatching it, the tension is really there. You're like, oh, man. And you do kind of worry for him. So I would say, like, my favourite sort of just action-y scene... The pub, as I've already said. I think also one of my another favourite scene is where he's being, beaten by Casper's guys, Johnny Casper, and how the big guy's left there, unbuttons his coat and everything, and goes to punch him, and Tom's like, wait, hang on a second. And he pretends to undo his clothes, then just takes a chair and slams him in the face. The guy goes, Jesus, Tom, and just leaves. I like that. That's a really good scene.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a Coen quirk there. My favourite scene is actually a really simple scene of just a sequence of cuts from the Coens, which just felt so Coensy to me that made me laugh. Where you have like a shot of a dog completely still, then you cut to a kid completely still. Staring at something, and then you cut to a dead guy in an alley.
yeah.
For some reason, I just found that so funny that you just have 3 shots together. They're doing nothing, and obviously the third one is just a dead guy, and then it's just weird how the kid just steals the guy's toupee. Just very odd.
Cut to the next scene with dialogue, and they're like, someone killed him, Tom, and they stole his hair. Like, who would do that?
They come back to that a few times.
It's like, they stole his hair. Jesus, Tom.
What a schmarter. I love that word. It's so cool.
Schmarter. I like how Casper always kind of, like, he's meant to be in control, but how he'll easily just...
Yeah, Johnny Polito. So, Directing score for me, it's good. I don't think it's anything amazing from the Coens. I think they've definitely, I mean, No Country is better for me in directing, but certainly with the script is where this film shines, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So directing, I would probably give it like 8.1.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you. There are some good shots, there are some good scenes, but there is no sort of standout look or feel or just anything that you would kind of go, I don't know, like it's quite unique or, kind of stands out very much. Unlike, many of the shots and camera angles and scenes that we were talking about in No Country, which is a very visual film. This is more it's a written film, it's a scripted film more than a visual film. That said, I still think it's pretty good. I think that's fair. I would go like maybe an 8. Yeah.
There's certainly some like film noir-y aspects to this film, but I do get the sense that it's very much a gangster film. Possibly be more interesting if they went into more of the film noir-y stuff a bit more to make it more visually interesting. Right, screenplay then. I love how this film like plays out in the end for Tommy's character. When Tommy realizes that Leo is being quite foolish with the Bernie and Casper situation. Leo isn't going to give up Bernie. Leo is going to start a gang war, and Tommy takes things into his own hands by admitting he was with Verna, Leo's girlfriend, and splitting ties with Leo. And at that moment, you're kind of not sure why he's done that. But by the end of the film, it's fairly clear. And he's making everyone think Tommy is now working with Casper, but as the story goes on, Tommy is manipulating everyone around him and to get them and everyone on Casper's side killed, including Bernie, but not as a way to get back working with Leo, but just out of respect for Leo. The fact that Tommy knows that Leo can't look out for himself because he makes stupid decisions. Plus, he can't get back with Leo anyway because they both love the same woman. So it's kind of bittersweet for, the ending for Tommy. So the only real option he has is just to save Leo from himself and just walk away from this gangster life, which is kind of a really melancholic ending, which I quite liked.
Yeah, I quite like that. Yeah, I think Tommy is just a really interesting character, and and he's just really clever, and he's just really quick witted, and he's just really mouthy.
Yeah,
and and as you said, he's just got everything sort of planned out, even if you're not entirely aware of what the plan is, and it all works out at the end. But yeah, he's also quite honourable and a terrible gambler. Jesus Christ! Well, that keeps going up in the film where Lazaro keeps wanting to break his legs, and he keeps just getting further and further in the hole. But he's so honourable that he won't accept like anybody to help him and stuff like that. But yeah, and also the relationship with Werner is pretty interesting, and Bernie. I quite like Bernie's character, and I quite like the actor that played him and how he was done.
John Turturro,
yeah. Just like this weaselly fucking coward, basically. And I love the mirror in the when he kills him. He's basically done everything, and then I like that. He even has
it's a loose end, isn't he? Really,
he is a loose end, but he even has Bernie kill Casper. So it's like, boom, he's got it all tightly packaged.
Yeah,
and then he's like, it's got to be you. I've got to kill you. And he's like, and he tries the same thing. Look in your heart. Look in your heart.
As you said, that the second scene in the woods, why that is so good is because the first one, there was no way I thought Tommy was actually going to kill Bernie in that first Miller's Crossing scene.
Yeah, when
he's ordered to kill Bernie. Tommy is following Bernie through the woods. Tommy is really steely, and Bernie is like begging for his life. The scene should be full of tension, but not for one moment, as I said, did I think Tommy was going to kill Bernie, because at this point in the film, because it would make no sense to kill Werner's brother, Werner being the woman he's in love with, and Werner is the girlfriend of Leo. He would lose business ties with Leo, and it wouldn't make any sense at this point in the film. Great acting, but no tension. But obviously, I wrote that note before the second scene.
Yeah.
Which, the second scene in the woods, that has tremendous tension. So I don't think the second scene works amazingly, but I don't think it would have if you didn't have the first one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, yeah, that works really well in the end. There's some funny lines in this, some really great, gangstery lines. So take your flunky and dangle.
Yeah.
No idea what that means, but, take your shit and leave, I suppose.
Yeah. It's the kiss off. If I ever see him again, it won't be long enough. shit like that. It's like, who talks like that? But I wish everybody talked like that. Or do you remember when he goes to Werner and about like Leo's about to declare war because of you and your fucking brother and stuff? And she punches him in the face and like he throws a glass at her and it misses. And she's like, I bet you think you raised hell. It's like, sister, if I raised hell, you'd know it. And stuff like that. I quite like that.
You can't hijack me, Tic Tac. We're on the same side now, or didn't you get that far in school?
Yeah, that was good, yeah. I like how he's always trying to push Casper's buttons. Like, Casper is absolutely
insane.
He's pretty insane, yeah. He's like, no, now don't say I told you so. He's like, I'd never say that, and I don't respect anybody who does. And then he basically says, like, Mink's gone quiet, Eddie Dane's not here. Like, he's thinking maybe he is betraying him. He's like, I told you so. It's like, you got a lip on you. Oh man, there are so many like good, quirky, funny scenes that I
What's
quite
the
like.
rumpus?
What's the rumpus, Tom? Do you remember when his son interrupted them and he slaps him in the face and then he starts crying?
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's like, "Oh, did somebody hit you?" I can rail off quite a few lines that I quite liked. When one of Leo's guys, like basically Tommy's on the phone trying to organize his plan of framing Eddie Dane to get Casper to kill Dane and get Bernie to kill Casper and just this whole intrigue. And so he's setting it up, and then he turns around and gets punched in the face by one of Tom's guys, and he's like, that's a message from Leo. He's like, stay out of this war. Although he doesn't care if you're in it or not. And then Tom comes up with some comeback, and the guy punches him again, and he's like, was that from Leo? He's like, nah, that was from me. I said that. You keep going, I'm going to say plenty. Stuff like that. I just love the talk. I love the banter in it. It's just like, it's a kind of wit that there's no way they just came up with that. It does feel like everybody is like a fucking genius with comebacks.
Yeah, I think certainly the one meaningful line that comes up a few times is nobody knows anybody not that well, in terms of how they kind of all double cross each other.
100%. Yeah. Another one that comes up is always like characters saying, Jesus, Tom, or Christ, Tom.
What's the rumpus?
What's the rumpus? Yeah, that comes up. What's the rumpus? The schmatter.
I think my favourite line, though, is Tic Tac stops Tommy in the street in the car, and Tommy gets in the car, and the Dane is in there, and he says, how did you get that fat lip? And Tommy says, old war wound, axe up around morons.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one where Dane goes to Werner's place because he's like, why are they hanging out if he killed her brother? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and he goes there, and a bunch of Leo's guys are there to protect her. So he shoots them, and one's still alive. And he's like, where's Leo now? And the guy's like, if I tell you, you're just going to kill me. He goes, if you told me and I kill you and you were wrong, then I wouldn't be able to find you to kill you again. And he's like, and then he tells him, and he's like, do you know what, Yeg? I believe you. And just blows his head off. And it's like, it's stuff like that. I just, it's pretty cool.
Have you got a favourite then? Or?
Probably that one. That was a pretty badass way to kill someone.
Right, screenplay score for me. Yeah, I really liked it. I kind of just love how satisfying it is for the character in a very bittersweet way, as I said, for Tommy. The way you find out that he's kind of manipulated everyone to save Leo, really, out of respect for him. I just quite like that idea. It's very selfless and.
Yeah, what do you think his dream means? Like the dream that even the thing starts with, like his hat blowing off in the wind. I like when she tries to explain it, and he goes, I keep having this dream, my hat blows off in the wind. And he goes, oh, and let me guess, you chase it, and then you catch it, and then it's not your hat, it turns into something else. He goes, no, it remains a hat. And I don't chase my hat. What idiot would chase his hat?
Which is ironic because he loses his hat in a bet at the start of the film,
Yeah, that's
and
true,
he wants
yeah.
his hat back. So
Yeah, he wants his hat back. Yeah.
I think it's kind of maybe an allegory for like when he wants to get his hat back at the start of the film, he's he can't help but stay in this gangster world, but when he has the opportunity to get out and manipulate one side, the hat blows off and he's like, nah, I'm not going to get it back. Maybe it's like that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's a prophetic dream of that he's going to leave this world behind,
Yeah.
The hat might be the gangster lifestyle and he's going to have to let it go.
We've worked it out.
We've worked it out, yeah.
So score, I'll go like 8.8.
So I'm teetering between like 8.9 or 9.1, but I reckon I'm going to go a 9.1.
All right.
I do like the intrigue of the script, but I really like the witty banter and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's just on point. Everyone's witty as fuck, and it's just, it's amusing. It's amusing to watch this film. Like, both in it's interesting, but also in a very comedic, haha way. Like, there's a lot of funny stuff in this.
Yeah.
And dramatic.
Right. Acting then. Certainly this week is all about one character in both films.
Yeah.
For me, that one character is Johnny Casper, played by Johnny Polito.
Yeah.
For me.
Don't give me the hi-hat!
It's all about hats, this film.
It's all about fucking hats, yeah. Like, giving me the hi-hat, Leo!
When Johnny Casper is in this warehouse, and I think his wife and the mother of his child is berating him in Italian and subtitles, about the weight of their kid or something. And to cheer him up, he tries to get him to guess which hand a penny is in, and the kid gets it wrong. And then Johnny gets him to guess again, but obviously makes it obvious by shaking his fist. But the kid chooses wrong again, and then Johnny Polito's face just drops. And you're like, oh, like, you stupid kid. It's just quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was quite funny. Yeah. It's like, you all owe him a penny, boys. I don't have a penny, boss. That's a penny you owe him. Yeah.
Again, Johnny Polito is great when the Dane is strangling Tommy and Casper is like stewing by the fire whether he should save Tommy or not. And of course, he saves him and goes nuts on the Dane with the fire
shovel.
thing.
It's a shovel, isn't it? Fire shovel. Yeah, he just starts beating him up with it.
And then
that was crazy.
Then ends this insanity by saying, "Something I teach all my boys: always put one in the brain."
Yeah, and I love how the blood is like just all over his face as he said.
Yeah, and it's like a nice push-in. Yeah.
Always put it in the brain. So, that was amazing.
I really like Marcia Gay Harden, who plays Werner in this film. Just like a really sassy, strong female character in this film. One of my favourite childhood films where she's in is Flubber as Sarah. I watched that film on VHS many, many times.
Yeah.
It's just a shame she's not in more films. I love the scene where she confronts Tommy in the street in the rain and demands to know if Bernie is alive. And Tommy says he's alive, but Werner doesn't believe him and puts the gun under his chin. And really wants to pull the trigger, but can't. And the camera holds on her face, which feels like a long time before she breaks down in tears. For me, it's just impressive how she can hold that emotion for so long before the tears come. It's just really skilled acting for me. Yeah. I always appreciate that side of acting.
So I like where Bernie basically breaks into Tom's house after he spared him at Miller's Crossing. And I just like how he's trying to be big of like, I know you said that I should leave and never return, but, I just thought that if I stayed around, that would be bad for you, and that wouldn't necessarily be bad for me. And he's like trying to threaten him into, like, he's only got like 2 days to kill Johnny Casper or whatever. I just love that dynamic of like, he's really pissed off. He's so pissed off. But he's also scared, but he's also sad, like, what he had to go through, that he basically had to cry in order to, beg for his life in order to be spared. It's just like, there's a whirlwind of emotion on that guy's face as he's just telling him, like, you fucked me over, and, like, this is how it is. And I just like that. And I like how Tom is just completely just, blank face, like, whatever.
And he's also, trying to seize this opportunity that he thinks he can try and manipulate Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But in this very much desperate way.
Yeah. Yeah, Desperate Way. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I love how that scene actually plays out, the directing of that, because it's kind of a wide, low-angle shot, and Tommy walks in and picks up the phone. I think he's talking to Lazario or someone, because he still hasn't paid them his money. And before it cuts to the close-up, he walks past the chair in the foreground, and you don't obviously realise there's anyone in it. And when he's on the phone, he's certainly just looking at that chair the whole time. And then when you get the reverse of it, you get the reveal of Bernie. That's just a really nice sequence there. There's just no way you would think there would be someone in there and just talk to someone on the phone. Normally you're just like, oh, hello, who are you? Oh, the phone, hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, favourite performance, Boaz?
Yeah, maybe Johnny Casper, the guy that plays Johnny Casper.
John Polito. Johnny Polito,
yeah. I just kind of find his performance funny because he tries to, he wants to. You feel like he's trying to come off as being very very boss-like and very level-headed and very wise, but he's not really pulling it off. You can tell he's he's a thug. He's pretending to be these things, and it's the little things, and he just goes he's just so overblown and so not in control of his emotions. I kind of like that character, and I like the performance of it, where he's and I think he does that well, where you can see that Tom could easily take him for a ride. He thinks he's much smarter than he actually is,
I do like a very stereotypical Italian-American gangster.
Yeah.
He's very much personifies that. So acting score for me, I'll go... Johnny Polito is really good. Gabriel Byrne, they're all really, really good. There's no one that is bad, really, or just irritates you.
Yeah, I also think the guy that plays the Dane is quite threatening. Fairly imposing figure.
I'll go a 9, actually.
Yeah.
It's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I'll go a 9 as well.
Cool. Right, let's add up the scores then for Miller's Crossing. Miller's Crossing gets 52, exactly. Which is a pretty good score, to be fair. It's an early film for the Coens, and they do an exceptional job, I think. But No Country for Old Men wins this week with 54.3. I mean, if Miller's Crossing was against any other film, they probably would have won.
No Country for Old Men is just in another league.
Yeah.
I think it's them after they've, they're more refined. This is they're them at their peak. But I do like Miller's Crossing. I still think it's good, but yeah.
Next week... Get ready to protect your pancreases, because Venom Let There Be Carnage is out in cinemas, brought forward, directed by Andy Serkis, which is cool. So for next week, we'll be having a look at Tom Hardy films.
Venom versus Gollum.
Yeah.
I need to make this.
Yeah. I would watch that.
I would watch it, yeah.
Thank you, Boaz. As always, you've been... an absolute schmarter. Bye-bye.
You gave me the high hat, Martin. The high hat. Why are you giving me the high hat?
Bye-bye.
Friendo. Anyway, see ya. Bye.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast, and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod, signing off.